Instead, we're going to talk to Amy, pronoun she, her, calling in from Ornery Horses, who's a theist who says my logical reasoning does not allow me to have faith and belief. What? My logical reasoning does not allow me to have faith and believe, even though I think God exists or want him to. I live in constant guilt for not allowing myself to have faith because of the hypocrisy of it all. That's a hell of a thing to call in
I think
about.
I think I need some explanation for this.
You're on the line. What's going on?
Hi.
Hi.
So I was born and raised super Catholic because of my grandmother. So I've always had this overwhelming sense of, I don't know if it's duty to believe in God, but also, I guess, trauma. So then I started going to Christian church because I felt like it was so much less intense. But probably in the last 5 years, I have found myself in a situation where even when I go to church, it's become first very political. And I've always believed in a separation from church from state. But then I started to realize I have all these traumas that I have, and no disrespect for anybody you spoke to earlier, but because of people like Dr. Trevor and the person you talked to after, where my questions are never answered. There's no validity to my questions. Like, hey, I don't understand. If this, why this?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And I was told when I was 8, I can sin in thought. So I grew up panicked. I'm going to go to hell. Because if I think about doing something wrong, I'm going to go to hell. So I would go to confession and confess like, oh, I thought about this. I was a teenage girl. You know, you think about sex. You think about all those things. So it's, I don't know. I guess I had more questions coming into, and then I heard Dr. Trevor speak, but then I understand why I have a hard time believing now. But it's also heartbreaking.
Yeah. Amy, can I ask, do you currently believe in the existence of a God?
I think I believe in God, but I don't believe in religion.
I get that.
Yeah.
Or not God, something, science.
Yeah.
My grandmother was Japanese on my other side. Yeah. So I grew up super Catholic for my mom's side, but my other grandmother was a Shinto. So she hugged trees. Yeah. She would hug trees, and she loved gardening, and she believed in energy is always, restored, and we all have a purpose in it, in the world, to protect the world.
I grew up pagan, and it was a lot like that. Yeah. Three things I think are really important here. Number one, at the beginning of this call, you totally said duty. Number two is that like the things that you described here are these everlasting thought stoppers telling you not to think and not to allow yourself to question. It's a very fascistic kind of mentality and morality, and that fucking sucks. It's why when we talk to people who are talking about why beliefs like these propagate, the thing that I always bring up is abuse, because that's absolutely what that is. Telling a child that they are going to be hurt very badly, and if they think too hard, that's the best way to guarantee they'll be hurt very badly. That's a fucking horrific and monstrous thing to tell a kid. And so for you to go through that, I trust me, you're in very good company on this channel. And like you've got a lot of people here who have been through that as well and have survived, and you can survive too. The thing that it sounds like where you're at now, the third thing, where it sounds like you're at now is this kind of like Spinoza's God, where you're saying that there's something there and it just looks like the universe the way that it is. And you can blend it into these cultural traditions you have, into whatever belief system you don't have that makes sense to you, whatever sense you can make of the world. It all blends together in these ways. And that's a way that you can kind of scapegoat and get around where you're like, well, I still believe in something, so I still feel comfortable and safe, but I don't have to go along with all the bullshit. That is a very natural step, a very natural progression. And I hope that while you're in that spot, because this is a great place to do it from, start probing, if this God is real, what kind of God is it? And is that God worth your time, worth your worship, worth any kind of dignity or respect whatsoever? And if not, is that a God worth believing in? And once you get past that, then you can start asking yourself, do I actually believe this? Is there actual evidence for this? Is there a reason for me to be going through this and dedicating so much of my life and my stress and my anger and my anxiety and my anguish and my problems that I am generating towards this thing, this monster that I've been taught about since a kid? Or do I want to take a second and just peek under the bed and see that there's actually nothing there and that you can live your life and be whatever the hell you want to be? That's where I think you should be going from here. That's just my thought.
Yeah, that makes
Amy,
a lot of sense.
do you mind if I chime in for a second too?
Please.
No, absolutely. I'm here because I follow you.
Oh, cool. Well, thanks. I know we're throwing a lot at you. First, I just want to validate where you're at right now. Other than the Catholic part, because I was raised more evangelical, your story is so similar to mine, down to the part where, if someone had asked me at the point where it sounds like you're at, do you believe in a God or not? I was like, I don't believe in religion, but maybe a God. But then in that same sentence, I went on to be like, but I think it's probably just something we already know what it is. And I'm just using this word to describe it that way because it brings me comfort, because that's how my brain has filtered the world my entire life. And that it's a really, really difficult place to be. And I just want to say first that I'm so proud of you, the courage that takes, especially when you do have the weight of family and all of that. And when you have this fear and anxiety that's been, woven into your brain. It's extremely brave that you're letting yourself be honest with yourself, much less calling us. And I really appreciate you trusting us with this phone call and talking to us. I'll just throw a few, I don't know exactly what you're asking for, but I'm throwing it out there anyways. Here's a few things that really helped me at this point. I prioritized therapy. Religious trauma is really a thing. And it was very helpful to find somebody that specialized in that. In fact, my therapist for a while was a Christian. She's only not my therapist anymore because I don't live in that state, but she was amazing. And even when I was already an atheist, like still an incredible therapist, and helped me figure out that I had multiple versions of OCD, and one of which was this, I think it's called moral scrupulosity or something like that, which is basically like religious OCD, where I found myself needing to pray at certain times, where I found myself terrified to think certain things because that meant I was going to go to hell, lots of stuff like that. So I'm saying that to let you know how normal you are. It's so normal that your brain responded and reacted in the ways that it did to what it was given. So the fact that you've come this far, you should be super encouraged. It gets so much better from where you're at right now. That's the other thing I was going to tell you about, is recovering from religion. If you haven't heard of them, they have amazing resources, one of which is the Secular Therapy Project. So they can help you find a therapist if that's something you're interested in. They also have a hotline where you can specifically talk to people about fear of hell. Because even once you logically are able to come to terms with, like, okay, we have no good reason to believe that any hell or afterlife exists, that fear can still live in your body and you still have to address it. And there's nothing wrong with you for that. That's so part of this journey, unfortunately. That was a long ramble. I hope any of that made sense or helped at all. Amy?
We can't hear you if your phone's asleep.
Oh, yeah. Maybe your phone fell asleep. You just got to tap the screen.
Oh, it was my phone.
There you are. Okay. I was dang it. None of that helped.
Everything you guys are saying makes sense. I studied physics, so that's what I'm saying. Like, for me, it's always been like cause and effect. There's theories, there's things you can prove. And I think the only thing that I've ever seen religion proof is that I see how happy people can be in religion, but I was never that person. Like, I've never been happy in religion. I've never been happy to be at church and believe. I've always wondered, like, if a child gets sick and they get better, oh, God did this for us. It was by God's grace. But if the child dies, oh, heaven wanted him. God needed him more. It was those kind of things. Or, I don't know, if Jesus died for our sins, why do we hate gay people and everything else that we don't agree with? Because he already died for everybody's sins. So why are we, I don't know what the word is hateful or things like that, or why they ask people to pay tithers like 10% of your wage, but then you might not be able to buy diapers or formula for your baby. And I've seen all of these things, like people setting money aside first thing with their paychecks and then literally not having gas to finish the week and go to work. Like, I just, I feel, I guess the biggest question is if God really did exist for me, it's like, why would he do all these bad things and create all these bad things? Because he would have the power.
Yeah.
If you're a good person.
It's called the problem of evil for a reason. It's a really big problem that I have never heard appropriately addressed. And that's a similar place to where I started in a lot of my journey with questioning. And then I came up with a bunch of other questions, and I think you'll get to that point too. But that's a really important place to start because you're connecting with humanity. You're like, hey, I'm a human and I can look and see that this is shitty, and that if I were God, this would not be how things go. And if you can already figure that out, then how much more should an all-powerful, supposedly all-loving being be able to offer some kind of solutions for that, and not at random? Like you said, there's people who are like, oh, you know, my kid had their broken leg healed 3 weeks faster than it was supposed to. And then somebody else loses their child to an accident. And it's like, so what? God was willing to help a bone grow back faster, but not protect an innocent child in an accident. You know, there's all kinds of things like that. I'm just saying what you're saying, basically, just validating where you're at. And I think those are all great questions. And like you said, I grew up also hearing people like Dr. Trevor completely unable to actually answer my questions, but I settled with their circle backs. I was just like, oh, okay, back to here. And then I wasn't able to engage my brain enough to continue and press forward with the questioning. So it sounds like that's where you're at, is that you're now eager to hear, no, really, what's the answer?
Yeah. But I think, I think you guys answered a lot, gave me validation about a lot of my feelings.
Good. Well, please call back anytime. Appreciate you calling. Is there anything else you wanted to chat about before we let you go?
No, that was it. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks so much, Amy.
Really, Amy. Take care.
Bye. Aw.
Awesome.
I'm so happy for people like that. And so like, I just want to be there and like offer a hug and be like, I know it's like waking up in this world that you did not know you were ever going to wake up in. And when you don't have the tools immediately, it's very daunting. However,
yeah, seriously. And like, I'm so happy that we have a community, you know, that can be here for that. That's so cool.
Eric, do you want to learn how to Mongolian throat sing? Check this out.
No, you try. No, keep that shit to yourself. Don't hear it.
Anyway, thanks for watching that clip. Patreon.com/calltheline is where you could support us. And maybe subscribe and like the video because it was a killer video. Or maybe it wasn't. Was it a Forrest video? If this was a Forrest video, you don't have to click like. If it was an Eric video, go ahead and click dislike.